Welcome to Dear Grandchildren, a Tracker's Tale. I'm Michael Douglas, your guide on this journey into the heart of nature and the wisdom that it holds. Here, we blend the ancient skills of survival, tracking, and foraging with modern insights to help you reconnect to the wild within. In each episode, we'll explore timeless practices, share life-changing stories, and discover how the natural world can bring you mindfulness, resilience, and purpose. But this podcast is more than just a show. It's a community. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcast, where you'll find exclusive content, question and answer sessions, bonus tales. For those seeking a deeper connection, explore our workshops and experiences, or even bring me to your community for an unforgettable adventure. Now, let's step off the trail and into a possible nature experience that could change how you see the world. Let's begin. In the last podcast, we started the foundation with the 8 directions of the compass rose, each representing an archetype, an expression of energy that is reproducible and predictable. And on a macro level, it would be the yearly cycle. The spring would be the beginning. It would represent new beginnings. On a 24-hour cycle, it would be sunrise. In a human life, it would be from birth to 8 years of age. Each represents explosive growth, curiosity, new beginning, passion, the white belt or the new scout, trying new things. It also has to be tempered with hazards. As we move through those directions, the southeast is the next, and with it comes a greater depth of evolution. So now we have not just wide-eyed wonder and the world is my playground, but we start to notice that there are differences in different locations, different people, different species. And we learn a little bit more about ourselves as we interact with these differences. Peer mentoring is the energetic of the southeast, where trees have personalities, and so do places, and animals become our favorite, or we're afraid of them. Each has their own lessons. As the sunrise is higher in the sky, or the season develops into the depths of summer, or we become adolescents, hard work, often thankless hard work, honoring a vision. It is the time of storms, of being worked on the anvil to gain our resilience. If the east were a tender sprout, the south would be the storms that give us the fiber, the wood, the resilience to endure. And as that sun moves continuously through the sky, in mid-afternoon or in the late summer, early fall, we have a transition. So too in our striving to be adult quest, we leave the house. We're big enough now as late adolescents to join the Marine Corps or the Peace Corps, or hit the Appalachian Trail, or run away, or go to college. Still in adolescence, but late in it, we need to get out of the hood to find our own voice, to test our mettle against the world, to find the common threads of truth outside of what mom and dad told us. And in discovering ourselves, we become wandering sages. There's still a them to conquer. The adolescent trait of us versus them, the hero's journey. It's an essential, it's vital, it's a piece that we need to evolve. But in excess, like anything else, it becomes a poison. And there is a point in healthy development where the shift from the us versus them grandiose stories of the hero and on their journey, vanquishing insert evil villain here, gives way to the realization that every relationship is destined to separation, and that the exhaustive, relentless rage against the machine with our fist in the air has burnt so many bridges and has exhausted us. And then there's this other mechanism called loneliness. The wall of grief hits us hard. It's a transformative grief that in the end, for most, we decide to pick up love and feed it because the dis-ease that we wanted to vanquish has started to create within us the very thing that we did not like, that we wanted to extinguish. The resentment for humanity, the anger against the invisible corporate bad guy. And we were just tired of it. There's no results, and nobody wants to listen to us anymore. And so we enter young adulthood. And it's marked by rolling up our sleeves and focusing on our gifts and how we can apply them to make the world a better place. And sure, in the beginning, hey, the spotlight's on us. I kind of like this. But as it evolves and gains roots, it starts to germinate into something more earnest, more selfless. It's a purpose beyond self that fuels us at our core, that we are committed to, that speaks louder than our own ego. And when that happens, we can belly up to the bar in the west of our 8 directions model. We move from the southwest of wandering through that crucible, that threshold of grief, into our young adulthood, where we're ready to serve our community from a place of peace. And after a while, we see this unfolding, this sequencing of events unfolding in each person, whether it's in a conversation, in a career move, a relationship, through parenting, through mentoring. And that sequence repeating itself gives us a new perspective, one of a more macro level. We can see it as it must have been through generations for thousands and thousands of years, and how it might be for generations long after we're gone for thousands of years. And we find ourselves in context, just like a forest succeeding through old growth into new birth from a forest fire or clear cut, the recovering field, repeating the sequence over through longer than our lifetime events. It's a great argument for tracking. And then that last piece on the physical plane, the north, where winter comes and turns our hair white, makes our joints stiff, but we at once are not only effective in our efficiency, but in our ability to hold our tongue and speak to those who are in a place to hear it. We've become the elders if we're on a good road with it, or we're bitter old fools if we're not. And then there's the northeast, the energy that moves through it all, that creates that swirling dynamic of hard and soft energetics, creating balance and flow and bounty, the yin and the yang. The oldest stories found in every oral tradition in one form or another. It's a shared story of humanity. And it's a great roadmap for your hero's journey. So I learned these things in 1992 in a workshop with John Young and a collection of folks who are still doing the work of it, the craft of it. People I respect and consider heavy hitters in preserving the collective wisdom of our hunter-gatherer nomadic past and using those gifts that our ancestors passed along through the generations to help enrich our modern life and promote a healthier world for the future generations. Again, another story found in every hunter-gatherer nomadic culture. Leaving it better than you found it. Being a steward or a caretaker or 7 generations ahead. It's so prevalent. It's a common voice. But then there are these challenges. How do you reconcile your anger, your despondency, distraction, and self-doubt? All of the horrors of humanity. How do you balance out what a good human being is going to be versus a villain, and if you are one or the other? Well, fast forward in my journey 12 to 15 years, and a gentleman by the name of Paul Raphael of the Odawa start sharing a completely unrelated but almost symbiotic strand, the healthier well medicine wheel and the broken or challenge medicine wheel. And they have infinite on ramps and exits. And they are both of equal value, because without one, you can't fully appreciate the other. Without one, you can't run a diagnosis on how to reclaim what we call our sacred fire, which is the symptoms of a whole human being, a baseline of joy. And I'll give you those symptoms at the end of this episode. But we need to examine first, compare and contrast the healthy wheel against the broken wheel. And again, without the broken wheel, we get no wisdom, no empathy, no gratitude. Because without the dis-ease, we cannot fully appreciate what healthy, well-adjusted, balanced human beings are. We can't appreciate our lives for the gifts that they have. And so, the first direction in the East, we are welcomed. Born into this world to song, to a mother who loves us, to a father who is delivering us to her breast so that your eyes can lock with those who gave you life and those who will support you through your childhood into adulthood, the community, as they sing you the songs and you get your name and find your place around the campfire. Birthing is a welcoming ceremony. And as you grow as a child, you experience rites of passage, sure, challenges, hardships, but always with an opportunity for growth, with encouragement from loved ones and challenge from peers to bring out your gifts, to problem solve, and then to share around the fire your stories, your victories, your insights. Yeah, even your failures, because they are teaching you. As an adolescent, the entire experience is initiation. It's a struggle as you, like a caterpillar in a cocoon, shift from that childlike energy into something more adult-like. It's confusing until you know who you are. And there's often plenty of opportunity, usually designed by the cool uncles and aunts who care about you, to go out on these journeys to get a deer or harvest a medicinal plant that is many miles away from the village, so that you can test yourself, hone your skills, build self-confidence through direct experience, perceived as well as actual risk. And when we're big and our voices are too loud to feel any compassion for others, as adolescence is known to be, we're not necessarily cast out, but we are encouraged to go on our vision quest. Some people call it a walkabout or crying for a dream. It's that time where you go into the temples of creation, or the isolation of the desert or the mountains, or maybe you go to your secret spot. But wherever it is, it's devoid of the distraction of what other people might tell you how to think, how to believe, how to perceive, so that you'd come back. You have no doubt as to who you are and why you are here and how you can best serve your people, your community, to include your environment and the creating force of the universe, whatever that means for you. And so the vision quest is a powerful threshold experience into your hero's journey. Now, here's the catch. Some would call this the warrior stage, right? So in the East, we're students. We want to learn the world. And in the South, we start thrashing and crashing along, trying to find our way. And then we become, after our vision quest, journeymen. We go to the wandering state of trying to test our mettle against the world. but it's not so much a warrior as an ambassador. We represent the voice of our community in how we express our lives, carry ourselves, how we pick up food, help other people, respond to stress, or even to the accolades of others. And when we come back in this healthy model, we are welcomed as a fellow adult who has all of the skills, the tools, and the passion to serve the people, the community, the land, and that big force, whatever name tag you want to put on it. And upon seeing this over and over again, it repeats as you facilitate ceremonies of growth. Maybe you keep a fire for the little ones who are learning to be adults on their first nighttime mission, or you hold space for that vision quester, or you live an example through your craft. As you age into a more senior state, you naturally become a leader in the Northwest. And that leadership role isn't born of delegation. It's born of learning how to empower others to be the best expression of themselves they can be towards feeling appreciated, needed, and loved. That north energy is a space in the healthy or whole wheel for wisdom keepers, elders. The mood of the elder or wisdom keeper is one of acceptance, that there is a finite amount of days and that we are the bridge between the ancestors and the future generations, and that the seeds that we carry of our lifelong experience may not be heard by all, but can be placed almost like a time capsule in the hearts of those who will passionately grow it. And we have the awareness and discernment to recognize that. And we look ahead into that mysterious void of the Northeast. And when we're gone, we become, well, the legend of story, or spiritual advisor, or the inspiration for at least the next 2 or 3 generations to come. Stories of grandmother or grandfather are held in the heads and hearts of the children and grandchildren we never get to see around the fire, as stories are told of our adventures and the lessons we learned the hard way. And it brings laughter, but also acknowledgement. It brings a sense of feeling grounded in generations of a people who are tied to the land and to each other. Now, in the broken wheel, birth is marked by separation and trauma. It's hard to imagine, but there was a time when babies were born, grabbed by their ankles, smacked on their butts, and then injected with medicines before putting their bodies on cold metal scales to be weighed and then carted off in Tupperware bins to be parallel parked in isolated rooms with glass windows. And the parents had to tap on the glass to try to get attention. These poor larval stage humans with eyes closed, wiggling in isolation. And as these children grew, there was confusion, which led to anger. The adults looked big and scary. There was no instruction manual. Go outside and play, which was cool, but kind of directionless. Wasn't anchored to a lot. That anger as an adolescent evolves into uncertainty and chaos. You learn more, for better or worse, between the classes when the bells ring than you do in the class enduring what I guess you have to do to get by. And growing through that experience, which seems to be the worst practices of a commercial chicken farm and a dysfunctional family, of institutionalization, we come out the other end grasping for a major because the counselor said we had to go to college or VOTEC. Well, we don't even know who we are. And there's a sense of alienation and isolation. We're cast into the world uncertain of our own identity and expected to make a living and choices that will affect us for the next 30 to 40 years. And if it's unsupported, if we are not given the space to find our true voice in it, there's a tendency to want to build walls. We carry an emptiness, a sense of being unfulfilled. We search for meaning in the next Netflix binge or the bigger plasma screen TV, or if we buy that, it'll probably make us happier. The endless treadmill. In this space, that emptiness evolves into bitterness in the Northwest. It's almost like there's a recognition that that void will never be fulfilled, or worse, that we bought into a storyline that wasn't in our best interest. And that if we were fully, truly ourselves, we could have had a more fulfilling life. Unfortunately, the kids are now young adults and ensconced in the same hamster wheel. And in the North, instead of wisdom and acceptance and a place around the table as an elder, we become lonely. And when we look towards the Northeast, instead of this idea of becoming a spiritual advisor or an inspiration through story, instead there's fear. The cold acknowledgement of the inevitable, we're going to die. Now, as these two wheels are compared, remember, each complements the other. So if we were looking at our lack of inspiration, well, it could be worse. What happens when you're not inspired, when you're not plugged in with your curiosity and your passion? There's always trauma. There's always this sense of separation from your vision, your love for life. Right? We're moving from the east now into the southeast. If we're not going to look at it as rites of passage, the traffic jam, the argument that we had at work, the distraction that allowed us to fall behind, then it can turn easily into anger. Or vice versa. Let's take that anger and turn it into a rite of passage. Use it as fuel to split that cord of wood to get through winter in good form. Or to write that article, or to craft that fill in the blank that's going to set your future self up instead of disable you now. In the South, we can take that uncertainty and that chaos and turn it into an initiation. I don't know why this is here. I don't know what this is all about. I don't even know what I'm doing. But with blind faith and a commitment, I'm going to create an archway, a crucible, that this is something I should walk through to get to the treasure on the other side. I am earning something. I can define what that thing is and head toward it. Now that chaos and that uncertainty is rocket fuel. And that initiation is the catalyst. And the next step is obviously your vision quest, instead of remaining alienated and isolated. Although alienation and isolation can easily be turned into a vision quest experience. You ever get so frustrated that you had to walk away from something, and then maybe an hour or three or a day or three goes by, and you come back to that space with a whole new perspective, and usually it gives you insight. The problem gets solved. Or maybe you just understand that that problem wasn't meant to be solved. And you've learned something about yourself, about surrender and giving space and knowing when to love enough that you have to walk away. And so that hero's journey is deeply connected to its shadow self. The alienation and isolation that one experiences in a hero's journey normally indicates it's time to go to the next step. The next step being service to your people, or building walls. There's monasteries for a reason, you know. Sometimes we got to get away from it all just to remember who we are, and then we can come back fully in the service of our people. In becoming a leader, there is always bitterness because we see the people that we're facilitating grow and outperform ourselves. They still have the magic of youth and the hunger of a new perspective. The material that they're mastering is fresh and they feel really good. It's the first time. Whereas we probably have our edges rounded. We've been fatigued for so long, trying for so hard to get what we needed to get and still maintain the love that we have for our craft, that it's hard sometimes. There's this space in the evolutionary process where our apprentices have to kill their Buddha in order to get out from their shadow. And even though they might love us, without that thrashing, without keying in on our fallibility as human beings and bashing us over the head with it just long enough so that they can hear how strong they are, it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard piece for us to carry. But that's the difference between a mentor and an apprentice. An apprentice wants to be better than their mentor, and a mentor wants their apprentice to be better than them too. I'm not sure about the wisdom and acceptance of an elder. I hope I grow into it fully. I know I sometimes feel the cold loneliness as my kids are now adults starting their own families. And I look around an empty house and an empty land when there used to be so much laughter and action and drama. Maybe too much sometimes. But wouldn't I love to have that all back? And so I use that to propel me to reach out and to craft mentoring relationships that are meaningful and empowering and challenging. And it's okay if they get mad at me, because it makes it real. And we're going to get mad at people we care about. And we're going to have to learn how to navigate those troubled waters, not only to make ourselves better, but to strengthen our relationships. That's how broken bones work. And then I just look at the Northeast in awe and in terror. It's the same wheel, just two different sides. So how do you know in your journey you're doing it right? Well, no one can tell you but you. I can share a tool, another tool. This is the last one for this episode, but it's a powerful one. It's probably one of the more important ones. I would say the pregame would be your initial premise and those three elements that were handed to us as the peacemaker principles, and thankfulness, the Thanksgiving address. Those three are huge before you get out of the house, before you get out of bed. But during the day, during your daily routine, your work day, your commutes, when things can get frustrated and ugly, one of the things that helps me is the symptoms of a whole human being. And this was given to us by Gilbert Walking Bull and also by Tony Tenfinger. These symptoms of a whole human being were recorded by elders who noticed that when the children were taken and brought to the Bureau of Indian Affairs schools in the late 1800s through the 1900s, and they came back as young adults, they did not have the qualities of a whole human. The word did not fit them because there was some pieces that were awry, missing. And so they recorded these symptoms of a whole human being. And I use them every day. I hold myself against these as a diagnostic tool. Where I fall short, sometimes I fake it till I make it. Other times I just sit. Maybe it's my car ride. It becomes a meditative reflection on how did I lose that one? And how do I recover it? Maybe I have to go walk the dog or play ball with the dog so that I can get back into that childlike state or that sense of belonging. I need to sit and watch the sunset while I eat my dinner or whatever it is. Make room for the best you can be. And as a tool, I haven't found one that is not only so universal, but so readily available for my personal psyche to sink its teeth into and recover my own sense of health and wellness. And so, the 7 symptoms of a whole human being as given to us by Gilbert Walking Bull so that we can be good neighbors and good people. The first one is a profound stillness. Again, if I compare this to the lineage that is the core of this school, the Lipan Apache through Grandfather Stalking Wolf and Tom Brown, the sacred silence. Or if I listen hard to the words of Jake and Judy Swamp and Sam Briggs, I hear a place of peace. And so the first one being profound stillness doesn't surprise me. It just reinforces how important being still in your heart and in your mind is. A person demonstrating a stillness and silence indicative of a profound sense of peace and belonging. It can manifest as a prolonged car ride with no need for the radio or cell phones or conversations. The urge to make noise or dull the senses through distraction is absent, even annoying. It's like a fart in church. A relaxed surrender to more quiet venues is preferred to the shouting, even laughter, and certainly the fast pace of our modern world. It's in this state that a person notices more and is noticed by others less. The second symptom is childlike joy. This happens normally as a child. Where did it go? It's the baseline of a person's personality. When they're happy, not all the time, but as a course, 80% of the time or more. Then when they're not, suddenly it's abnormal and it's not long lasting. You're not fretting about global issues or dwelling on obtaining resources needed to sustain you. Instead, you joyfully welcome the challenges that come to you every day, and you learn from the struggle. It's that joy of being in the playground of life. The third one is feeling deeply connected. Now, I do not know the language, and I don't want to dishonor the proud people who gift us these technologies. I can tell you what I remember hearing, and I'll tell you I fall short of the depth of the interpretation of it. Mitakwe Oyasen is more than all my relations. The way it was told to me is it is a rough translation that fits on a bumper sticker. The actual meaning is, I have an unquenchable and burning desire to know the all of the universe as intimately as I know myself. This is a person who has a profound sense of connectedness, fueled by the curiosity to ever know more and more. It is a passion-based expression of being truly alive, moved by the weather, the moods of people, the presence of other living things. It's an individual synthesis of all information and acts, quicker than thought, quicker than emotion. And it's an information superhighway that comes to us as a gut feeling, a sixth sense, inner vision, funny feeling, deja vu, emotions, feelings, signs, symbols, dreams, visions. You can feel the subtle shift in a wind just as much as you can feel the subtle shift in bird language, indicating that a large canine is making its way around the edge of a field half a mile away, concealed by dense shrubs along a wood line. The wind shift gives you a piece of the puzzle, as does the bird alarms, but the rest of the crowd is so tunneled in on the game, on the 9 to 5, on the treadmill, on the commute there and back, that the clues don't even register. But when you're plugged in with that deep sense of connectivity, your antenna array is alive. It's feeding you live feeds so fast you don't listen to your logical mind. That sacred silence is a template for reception, not projection. Suddenly, the feeling of being watched is a knowing, and it's not a rough, fleeting moment, the one that we often feel in our modern world. It's an ongoing conversation with the landscape. Symptom number 4 of being a whole human being: having the quickness and wit of a wild animal. This idea of being both physically quick as well as quick-witted is a characteristic common in students of the invisible school. What I mean by that is people who go outside and play, with their friends and who are supported by a community who understand how important it is. You've done it. You've caught something when it was falling before you even thought to do it. And if you had thought, oh, I better catch that, you would have missed it. Whether it's a paper ball being thrown at you in a classroom or a coffee mug that was just about to teeter off the side of a desk, or maybe you opened a cabinet and a box fell and you caught it without thinking. When you see people who have this quickness, it seems like they have this penetrating quality to the way they look at everything. It's not a darting look. It's not a point-to-point frantic look of confusion or intensity. It's more of a calm, piercing gaze. If this trait is alive and well in an artificial and static environment, it tends to be frowned upon, labeled as some sort of deficit or even managed through medication. But it's important to note that this characteristic is natural, and it's a sign of health in a context that is more rooted in natural systems rather than the contrived systems of control and known outcomes. The 5th symptom of a whole human being is a deep commitment to be truly helpful, not to draw attention to oneself for your altruism. It's not a label to and from on a brightly colored package in front of an audience. Instead, it's that time you stop to help the person change their tire on that road, or pick up all the coats that fell off the coat rack and walk away, expecting no accolades. Or hand that Easter egg to that poor small kid who couldn't outrun all the bigger kids and didn't have any to show for it after the Easter egg hunt. It's a true concern for others, extending to the unborn future generations, and it moves through you without want of recognition or reward. Symptom number 6 of a whole human being: an established community of caring people. Now, when I'm moving through my life and I feel really alone, I have to take inventory. I have friends from 5th and 6th grade, and I'm 57 years old. I have friends I've known for 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 3 months. I'm blessed. And I'll reach out to them. Hey, how you doing? And I truly want to hear their story of the day. Just in hearing their story, I begin to feel appreciated again. And so what might be a healing opportunity to vent for them becomes a nourishing opportunity to feel connected again for me. That community of caring people is vital. It's like the net for a trapeze artist. It's not like cliques. It's not so tribal as to be cannibalistic and adolescent. It's not going to be based in violence. It's more supportive. Its central theme isn't monetary or glory. It's more service or a purpose that reaches beyond self. It's a networking that occurs from a nexus of craftspeople who are strong in their walk and who need support every now and again. And that's how community takes hold. and it extends to the landscape as well as the people involved. Number 7, a vibrant and present participant in life. A sense of being truly alive has been described by participants in nature, in this extended community of landscape and people working together. The urge to run out into a rainstorm or climb a tree on a windy day, it's a good indicator. If one is known to have crawled through the mud, embraced the cold of a knee-deep snow in their pajamas, or stalked up to and scared a cat as you touch it and startle it, well, then perhaps they have this trait of being truly alive. It's knowing at the end of each day, and perhaps even at the end of your life, yes, I really was here. I really did live. Thanks again for visiting. I can't wait to share the rest of it as we move forward on this journey. And I'll see you on the trail. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Dear Grandchildren, A Tracker's Tale. If today's journey resonates with you, I invite you to share it with others who long for a deeper connection to nature and themselves. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts for bonus episodes, exclusive question and answer sessions, and more tales from the wild. Your support through subscriptions, feedback, or simply spreading word keeps this flame of ancestral wisdom alive. And if you're ready to take the next step, contact the Central School at primitiveskills.com or email staff@primitiveskills.com to learn all about our workshops, experiences, lectures, expeditions, and how we can bring these teachings directly to you. Until next time, may your trails be clear and your heart full. Keep exploring and keep the fire burning.